Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Suzerain. So, in the last episode, we finally decided on our first major project, which is going to be a high-speed railway between the capital of Wholesort here and Tillichaven. And in between that, Gilsord, Enrica, they will all be connected, and it will also help connect some of these rural areas to our main economic powerhouses as we continue on our path to try and gain ultimate authoritarian power. So, in the last episode at the end, we also saw that we have this new I guess you could say quests to a certain degree, or new tasks that we have to do here. We didn't have this in the original demo, but if you do remember, there was an option to, there was a story about an Arcasian company. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. An opportunity to buy stocks from an Arcasian company. A personal investment opportunity has been relayed by Mr. Manger. An experienced stockbroker in Ventry City, Arcasia, is selling valuable shares of Armadine Industries, an up-and-coming electrics manufacturing company. We could invest or let the opportunity pass. Interesting. So this goes into the personal wealth thing, but I wonder exactly what does this mean? Let's see. I don't really know what that could mean because I don't really know what the personal wealth actually does, but I'm going to invest 2,000 shares in it. I do have a wealth of 3, so that'll leave me with 1 more, so hopefully I'll see some return on this pretty soon. And I feel like 2,000 shares is a little bit middle of the road, so we'll see how this goes. Anywho, let's see what else we got here. Reception at the inaugural ball. Do we have anything else that we could possibly do? I also could see how that could be a problem at some point in time too, because I'm pretty sure that could be used for blackmail or something like that. Anywho, reception at the inaugural ball. Residence of the president of Swordland Wholesort. I had just finished buttoning up my suit jacket when the doorbell rang. The presidential guard had arrived to pick us up for the inaugural ball. The ball was a 3-decade-old tradition, breathlessly anticipated by politicians, bureaucrats, and the press. All eyes were about to be on me. I called on Monica to get the children ready. Looking in the mirror, I straightened my tie and took a deep breath. After tonight, there would be no turning back. I think you pretty much achieved that once you turned around to put your hand on the Bible and you turned around and did the oath of office. Suddenly, Dina hugged me from behind, startling me a little. Monica had fixed her hair into an elaborate braid, woven through with ribbons. Papa, Mama told me it's time to go. Let me see. Tell your mother I will be ready very soon. Okay, Papa, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see the palace. It was almost time to leave. The big ball was starting in less than an hour. Let's see. I'm not that close, and I could be a jerk. I won't unnecessarily be a jerk, though, I guess. Let me see. Darling, Frank, it's time. Monica came down the stairs. She was wearing a simple yet elegant beige sheath dress and short heels. Her hair had been neatly pinned into a chignon, showing off the pearl earrings I had given her for our 15th anniversary. Lord, we've been together for a while. All those years, she has stayed by my side. Now we were about to begin the most challenging chapter in our lives yet. How do you do, Mr. President? Yeah, I'll go ahead. I guess I can just be in awe of her. I'll kiss her hand. She extended a gloved hand, and I raised it to my lips. Now where the hell is Frank? Frank? Let me see. Or I could just be a complete douche and say, how do I look? Both of these are douchey. Again, I'm not going to unnecessarily be a douche. Let me see. Monica, my love, you look as gorgeous as the day we married. Now, there's that charm that got you elected. Frank trudged down the stairs. His thing itches. Frank tugged at the collar of his new tuxedo. He seemed ill at ease. Let me see. I'm glad to have you with us for this big night. Sure, Dad. I'm just dying to go. Papa, are these people going to be around us from now on? She pointed at the presidential guards at the door of the house. Yes, Swordland's most important family needs extra protection. It's alright, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa, or his family. Monica held Dina's hand. Together, flanked by the guards, we walked out the door. Halfway to the car, Frank stopped abruptly and turned towards me. Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay at home instead? I'm nervous myself, Frank, but I'd feel a lot more confident with my son by my side. That's bullshit. But, let me see. You'll love it, son. I'm sure there'll be plenty of pretty girls to dance with. Yeah, sure. If there's even time in between all the boring speeches. But I guess I have no choice. Got that over with, Frank? Let's go. If the car is waiting for us. The presidential guard showed us the way as red and blue lights flashed around us. Sergey, my driver, ushered us into our armored limousine. The motorcade started moving towards the palace. I gazed out the window deep in thought. Anton, what are you thinking about? I was thinking that we've come a long way together, haven't we? Yes, we have. And there's still so much that we'll accomplish side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm going to help Papa fix everything. Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. This means a great deal to me. After what seemed like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Sergey rolled down the limousine's soundproof partition. We're here, sir. Hope you enjoyed the drive. Much appreciated. How are you today? I'm just as good as I can be, but today is your day, sir. I'm glad you are in charge now. You know, my entire family voted for you. Thank you and your family. I'm here with all of your support. No reason to thank me, sir. You're the one who sparked the glimmer of hope in us all. Sergey opened the door for me. The normally imposing palace was festooned with garish banners that nearly made it look cheerful. A line of shiny luxury sedans stretched around it. Politicians, bureaucrats, and celebrities, the creme de la creme of the Swordland elite, streamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. I'll see you on the trip home. I stepped out and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones my way. My guards fended most of them off, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognized the Swordish Broadcast Company logo on her press lanyard. I don't think that was actually mentioned the last time, too. Mr. President, do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reforms? Let me see. If the opposition is willing to support us, we are going to work with everybody. My administration will bring real change. This night is for celebration. I'm not going to talk about my policies now. Well, I want to get on his good side. I want to get on Coronati? I want to get on his good side, so I don't want to use this answer. I don't know if I want to use that one either, so I feel like it's going to be one of these two. Let's see. If the opposition is willing to support us. That might be the best answer here. Yeah. If the opposition is willing to support us. Mr. Richter clarified that as long as you support their demands of democratization, they will work with you on all issues with a cooperative spirit. What do you think about this statement? Ah, yes, Friends Richter. We want the other party to join him in this endeavor. Honestly, I don't expect much from him. I'll just say, honestly, I don't expect much from him. I don't think I've actually been a jerk to Friends. I think I've accidentally just been kind of meh towards him. But I don't think I've been a jerk towards him. So let's go after him. One more question. One of your first acts as president was to sign a campaign finance law allocating public election funds by seats in the assembly as opposed to number of votes. Is this a deliberate attempt to defund the Communist Party and Bootiest Workers' Party, neither of which have reached the election threshold? There wasn't that much interaction before with the reporter, but this time it's a lot of interaction. It's to ensure the USP has the funds we need to stay in power long enough to truly bring democracy to this country. Perhaps it was. If left unchecked, these two parties will only make trouble for me. Definitely shouldn't use this. My motivations are not for you to know. Definitely shouldn't use that. Perhaps it was. If left unchecked, those two parties will only make trouble for me. Definitely don't think I should say that, because that just sounds a little self-centered. So, again, I don't want to be too obvious about my intentions. Not yet, anyway. So, we're going to go with, it is to ensure the USP has the funds we need to stay in power long enough to truly bring democracy to this country. Going to kind of flip it back on him to a certain degree. That's enough, ma'am, said one of my guards while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and we quickly made our way to the entrance of the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. The entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons in Swordland's colors of white, yellow, and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. Behind me, I heard a familiar voice. Peter Vectorn, of course. There they are, the most beautiful family in Swordland. Uncle Peter. Hi, Uncle Peter. It's great to see you. You two are growing faster than I'm getting wiser. Let me see. Are you sure you've gotten any wiser, Peter? Maybe not. After all, I'm sticking with you. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Evelyn? Peter's wife, Evelyn, approached us and shook our hands with a firmness that belied her delicate features. Or belied, I'm not sure. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say, the results were clear to me from the beginning. Let me see. There's a woman behind every successful man. I can pander. What a gentleman. Monica smiled at me. Monica, how are you? You've barely said a word. I'm more than relieved to have this roller coaster ride over with, but of course, now the real work begins. Ah yes, managing the help, planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look your best for foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my power as First Lady to advance the position of women throughout Swordland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue. When you say, Anton? Ooh. This also was not a thing in the demo, so, okay. Oof. Oof. You could be such a jerk. Good lord. Good lord. Okay. As long as you don't burn the roast. Am I right, Peter? They mustn't neglect their responsibility to their husbands and families. Oh boy. I think I'm just gonna, oof. That sounds bad too. Oof. Oof. I don't like any of these, honestly. Absolutely. We'll work together to achieve that. No, that's just straight up lying. That's my wife. Never content to be just a pretty face. I'm just gonna kind of not answer that question. Monica flashed me a smile. Dina suddenly jumped in between us and tugged on my sleeve. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom. Yes, it's time. Let's go. Moved to the ballroom. We left the lobby and made our way towards the ballroom. Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Swordland. I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining various conversations, some serious, some superficial, and making speeches. We finally settled down at our dinner table with the Vecturns as the band started playing some slow jazz tunes. Oof, that was tiring. Another drink? Well, suddenly a loud banging noise echoed from outside the ballroom, then another one, and another. The musicians stopped playing. Everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I turned towards each other, realization dawning on both of our faces. Fireworks? No, gunshots. As soon as Monica heard the word, she lunged from her seat. I'm going to shield Monica and the kids, just in case there's a camera around or something like that. I threw myself on Monica, Dina, and Frank to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some guests flung themselves under the tables and others ran towards the doors, screaming. Dina burst into tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out loudly. Carl Grazer. Alright. Carl Grazer, the head of the Swordish police force, was running towards us with 3 more police officers in decorated uniforms. They all had their guns drawn. As soon as he made it to us and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God. Status report. 1 second, Mr. President. He turned around quickly to his men. Check the perimeter, now. Paul, Jansen, follow my lead. We will bring them to the safe room. He now turned to Monica, Evelyn, and the children and spoke in a softer voice. Do not worry, the situation is now under control. Please follow me. We promptly followed Carl through the winding halls and corridors of the palace. His men still had their guns drawn, which did nothing to ease our tension. On the way, Peter made an attempt to break the silence. What a fucking night. It's not over yet. Carl turned to us with a serious face as we were about to round a corner. Quiet, please. Excuse me, President here. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped the switch on the wall and the panel opened, revealing a hidden staircase leading to a large reinforced door. Inside, a set of emergency lights flickered on. The safe room was comfortable and spacious, with expensive-looking leather sofas. Small security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. There was a boardroom and a pantry containing enough provisions to last us months. Monica and Evelyn sat the children down and started wiping their tears. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to me and Peter. I'm gonna be a bit of a hard ass here, so tell me, Carl, do I have clowns for a security for a security force? I guess it would help if I could talk. As I raised my voice, he lowered his head in respect. No, sir. Then tell me how this circus show happened in my ball. The room went quiet. Peter seemed like he was about to say something, but with one look from me, he stopped. I'm sorry, sir. I will personally conduct the investigation into our palace security force once we figure out what is going on. I can assure you I will be relentless in dealing with incompetence. You better for your sake. Status update. Dana started crying again because of my yelling. As you command, sir. Carl's radio suddenly crackled to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When he fell silent, he turned to us. Good news. We are not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with and the perimeter has been secured by the guards and the police. He glanced towards Monica, Evelyn, and the kids. If I may, sir. He gestured towards a more private corner of the room and started speaking more quietly. This is what we know so far. We have confirmed that 2 people were gunned down in front of the palace. The gunman is one of them, and we are sure that he was working alone. The attacker fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Jesus. Presidential guards at the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. The gunman has not been identified yet and will require an investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as Bernard Sarkoz. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter pulled out 2 cigarettes and handed me one. He then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him trying to reassure her that everything was going to be all right. Monica was still trying to tend to Dina as Frank paced the room, mumbling that he should have stayed home. I'll go and comfort Monica and the kids. I guess I could be a father. I sat down beside my wife and children. Nothing like this will ever happen again. I'll make sure of it. We're safe. I'll make sure everything's going to be fine. We can't be sure of anything anymore, Anton. I lit my cigarette and took a deep drag. I was going to see this through and keep my family safe. At all costs. I crushed a cigarette on the ashtray. Alright, so we have basically an assassination. Always a good start to your administration. Bernard Sarkoz is a Swordist poet, novelist, short story writer, and politician. He's acclaimed for his lyrical flow and was guarded to be the leader of the Swordist avant-garde. His early writings were heavily influenced by the social, cultural, and economic problems of his home city of Dyer. His work earned him the description of a romantic communist. He joined the Red Youth during the Swordist Civil War and fled Swordland after the war was over, surviving the purge of Tarquin Sol. He moved to United Cantana and studied sociology at the Communist University of Kyoto. There, he was influenced by the artistic experiments of Cantanan poets who advocated futurism, as well as the ideological vision of Malenev. Many of his works are regarded as the greatest achievements of the Swordist literature and earned him many awards abroad because of his political views. His works have been banned in Swordland since 1930. In 1950, Bernard returned to Swordland following the departure of Tarquin Sol. He organized strikes against Swordist government's failures to include amnesty laws and started to become a popular figure in Swordist politics. He ran as the independent in the 1953 general election and became the first communist to be elected to the Grand National Assembly. And he has just been assassinated. So, as you can imagine, the left is not going to be happy about that. So, problems. Great start. Yay. Let's see what the news has for us. Swordland today. Rain doesn't expect much from Richter. President Rain shut down the call for cooperation from Franz Richter of the PFJP and of the inauguration ball. Regarding the remarks of Richter about a possible cooperation to fix the current problems of Swordist political institution, I don't expect much from him, said President Rain. Richter has long been vocal about his democratization plans, and it seems that his demands for constitutional change will never become a reality if we do not see a Richter presidency anytime soon. It looks like the opposition will have a hard time during President Rain's term. Crap! I probably shouldn't have done that. Crap. One of President Rain's first acts in office was to sign a campaign finance law allocating public election funds by number of assembly seats as opposed to the percentage of votes won in a general election. In an interview ahead of the inauguration ball, Rain admitted this was a deliberate strike against the Workers' Party of Bludia and the Communist Party of Swordland, neither of which would be eligible for funding under the new law. Both parties would only make trouble if allowed to grow unchecked, he claimed. Media. You see that? I didn't say that. That's not what I said. Oh, Lord. Swordland has been shocked by grave news today as an elected member of parliament has been shot dead in a suspected political assassination. Police sirens were heard around the clock today as the whole Sword police force increased security measures around the capital. The fact that such a violent act happened at the heart of the capital during the new president's inauguration celebrations has worried many citizens. The Red Youth has reported to have promised revenge. It seems like it has the potential to be a spark that would swirl Swordland into the political violence of the 1920s. Oh, goody. I wonder if Coronati did this in order to just kind of show and flex his muscles, saying that, like, okay, I can do whatever I want and I can paint you whatever way I want. Or he's just trying to sell papers. Not sure. I may have made bad decisions too. Always a possibility. So, yeah. There are consequences. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, let us see here. Read the report from Holsword. Security increase. Security measures at the capital have been heightened after the murder of Bernard Sarkoz. The mayor of Holsword reports that everything is under control. Security around the Maroon Palace has been decreased with the combined efforts of the Holsword Police Department and the Presidential Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised with advice from security professionals. The police chief, Carl Gracer, reported that an investigation has been launched on the murder of Bernard Sarkoz. Alright, Situation Room, Maroon Palace. The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Lilius presented the initial report. Bernard Sarkoz was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of assembly and, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last word out with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as the member of the nationalist organization Young Swords. I was a part of that. The president and his family were unharmed, praise God. An MP shot near the palace. That is absolutely unacceptable. I agree. We are reevaluating our security measures. However, the recession has affected my ministry negatively. This sets up a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s might spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. The Minister of Justice sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Sarkoz expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Freedom of expression is part of our Constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone the MP, shot for voicing different opinions. Oh, I also forgot to read this. Nia has always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Let's see. The Malinievist ideology that the Red Youth promotes poses threats to our country too. We should be cautious, because I was a young sword, so I'm against this Red Youth stuff. Agreed, and we are always watchful of internal threats like the banned Communist Party members who are supportive of a similar agenda with the Red Youth. These groups wouldn't resort to unconventional means if they were represented in our assembly. The high electoral threshold and bans are making these factions extreme. Minister of Defense Issof Lankia grunted in disapproval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Don't be stupid, woman. These organizations speak against the state. The labor union of Swordland is also in the same boat. I wouldn't be surprised if United Cantana has a hand in supporting them. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. Let's see. It is political though, isn't it? Yes, but we need to calm the country. If we take sides, we could escalate the situation further. There aren't many sides. The state versus its enemies. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace, and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation on all involved parties is on the way. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. And hopefully clean up my pretty shitty security service. That would be great too. I will do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. Let me see. Any threat to our power must be dealt with as soon as possible. Any direct attack against the government and our people is a serious concern, but we don't know enough to act on yet. Lucien took some notes after checking the latest newspaper and reports. It seemed that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country. If we can't fix the recession if there isn't stability. Whoever is against the state is an enemy. We will prevail. We are here to stay. This will be it for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. The meeting concluded and the ministers left the room with concerned looks. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. Yeah, things are pretty rough now. Things are pretty rough. Let's see. Do we have any updates about what's going on around? Okay, it doesn't look like it. For the Chevin Times, murder at the palace. Breaking news, Bernard Sarkoz, a prominent independent MP known for his communist romanticism, has been murdered leaving the Maroon Palace grounds after the inauguration ball of Anton Reign. Reports indicate a politically motivated assault by the far-right nationalists of the Young Swords. Shocking photographs have been leaked to the press showing blood-dripped stairs of the Maroon Palace. We heavily condemn this sort of political violence. This is the very cycle the president must break with reforms. All right. So let's head into the next chapter, I think. Or a few days later. That also works. All right. We have reports galore. Good grief. Let's see. I can't read that. I don't speak Swordish. Alright, so let's take a look at some of these notes that we have here. We also have newspapers to read. Communist Party leader suspected of bomb attack. Oh God. Okay. At 11:48 a.m., an unattended bag in front of the NFP office in Volgin was destroyed by the police on suspicions of a bomb threat, which were then verified. Upon further investigation, the Communist Party leader of Volgin, Milt Hanu, has been arrested in connection to the incident. Jesus. Alright. We're on the verge of civil war. Always great. Weapons seized in cultural center. Local police forces report that a wardrobe full of heavy military equipment has been seized in a Young Swords cultural center in Jin. Regulars of the palace denied having any knowledge about the weapons. The owners of the building have been detained along with 13 other people. The police captured 22 rifles and 2 machine guns. The equipment belonged to the Swordish Armed Forces, dated 1929 but kept in very good conditions. Alright. They're even getting weapons. Always good. What else do we have here? Illegal KA-74s seized, definitely not AK-47s. A cache found with Rumberg-made weapons include 46 KA-74s, 2,854 bullets, 12 handguns, 27 grenades, and bomb-making equipment was found in the basement of an abandoned house in Suzerain. No suspects have been detained yet. The investigation is ongoing to determine the origins of the equipment. Oh, Roomberg, now you're getting involved too. Always great. Young Swords Youth Wing leader dead after terror attack. Local Young Swords Youth Wing leader in Suzerain, Jack Torin, has claimed responsibility for the organized attack in the Bluish market that resulted in the death of 7. His base of operations have been raided and he was found dead inside with 2 bullet wounds to the back of the head. The scene was organized to make it look like a suicide. We were not able to get information about the location of other ringleaders connected to the terrorist attack. Jesus. So is this other government's involvement, or is this just kind of like this is literally our own problem? So let's see. Police is understaffed. We're going to fix that pretty soon. Narwhal has reported that it is currently too understaffed to deal with the ongoing political violence. Due to the small size of the police force in the city, they have been working non-stop and a number of officers were sent to the hospital as a result of severe fatigue. Minister of the Interior Elias Graf has been working with head of the police Carl Gracer to address this issue. We have a military, we can always just, send the military in. I'm all about tanks being sent in. Police overburden in Estord. We have been receiving reports of a lack of equipment and staff from the police forces in Estord. With the escalating violence in the city, the officers have been working 12-hour shifts to suppress the protests to no avail. The police commissioner of Estord has requested reinforcements and extra supplies of tear gas from nearby cities. Oh, don't worry. We're finna get you some backup pretty soon. Illegal firearms found in Communist Party office. The Riverbury Police Department raided the local Communist Party office after alleged attacks organized by one of their members and found illegal firearms in the office. The building has been closed and 22 members of the Communist Party of Swordland have been detained. Jesus Christ, we can just... Political activists being arrested all over. Jesus. Horton critiques trade. The leader of Agnolia has diplomatically critiqued the imbalance of trade between our country. Concerns were raised over how much more Swordland profits from net trade in comparison to Agnolia. Prime Minister Martin van Hoorn requested a fair reevaluation of the existing treaties in future negotiations. Okay. You're really on this whole trade tip thing. Don't know how I feel about it right now, considering I have other problems to deal with. Smolak warns traders. The latest diplomatic message from the leader of Wayland warned us regarding a pathway from the mountains of Bergia that allowed traders of the state escape into Swordland. President Victor Smolak has demanded that the border security to be increased. He also sent his best wishes about handling the protests in Swordland. Thanks. So on the one hand, you be a jerk, and then on the other hand, you're just like, oh yeah, good luck with all the stuff that's going on in your country. All right, what does the newspaper have? Oh, great. Everybody has something to say today. Swordish politician shot dead. A Swordish poet and politician who has spoken out about the idea of the dictatorship of the proletariat was shot during the evening of Anton Rain's inauguration ball. Bernard Sarkoz, a 53-year-old Swordish member of Assembly, was shot a number of times by a gunman at the entrance of the Maroon Palace, who was identified to be a member of the Young Swords. Despite his radical views, Mr. Sarkoz was elected to be an independent member of Assembly in the 1953 elections and sadly did not manage to live long enough to serve his duty. He was said to have repeatedly received threats from Swordish nationalists who viewed him as a traitor for promoting Malinievism in Swordland. Television footage showed the famous poet's body lying face down, draped with a white sheet, on the pavement in front of the gates of the Maroon Palace. Lilias Graf, the Interior Minister, said she had assigned a group of leading ministry officials to lead the hunt for the killers. Once again, dark hands have chosen our country and spilled blood and whole sword to achieve their dark goals, she told a news conference. We are investigating all aspects of this crime. His funeral will be held tomorrow in his home city of Dare. The local police have reported to have increased security measures for the ceremony and stand ready for a massive attendance. And I'm guessing I gotta be there one way or the other. Swordland today. Unity despite differences. Swordland has 2 paths to the future, and this year is critical to decide which path we embark upon. Amid a recession, the lack of stability and security caused by the death of Bernard Sarkoz is an unacceptable reality. We need more jobs and a safe atmosphere if our country is supposed to grow and prosper. But how will we increase our employment and open new factories if there is blood flowing down the streets? Swordland will never reach its goals as an advanced society if we descend in a downward spiral of splintering of our nation. Peace and prosperity now and forever. Murder was a method of the past. The tensions between the left and right extremists have increased in the country after the assassination of MP Bernard Sarkoz. Protests of Malignevist groups quickly turned into riots around the country. We are calling for peaceful protests and dialogue instead of violence. After the attack that prompted the riots, a member of Young Swords assassinating a member of Assembly clearly shows that they are willing to use extreme actions, said Franz Richter in his speech in the Grand National Assembly. We live within these borders together, and therefore we bear responsibility, a duty to live together with our differences. Richter's unifying message is something that we all should listen to in these times of danger, of loss. The murder was a method of the past, and it has tainted us, reminded us of who we were before and who we don't want to become in the future, said Richter, and stated that we as citizens of this nation all bear responsibility beyond ideologies, partisanship, or any other identity. Whew. Farewell, Bernard Sarkoz. It is a sad moment for Swordland. We have lost a renowned poet who not only wrote about the struggles of the working class, but also acted on them. However, his decision to enter Swedish politics was met with a sick attack that ended his life. This was indeed intended as a message to all opposing voices in Swordland. We, the team here at The Radical, condemn this evil act of terror of the Young Swords, who we believe must be held accountable as a whole group. It is finally the time for the government to realize this organization as a terrorist threat and serve the justice that is due. Bernard Sarkoz is always going to be in our hearts as a great Swordish poet, as a revolutionary, as the leader of the Swordish avant-garde, as a futurist, as a romantic, as a Malignevist, but beyond all, as a symbol of freedom of speech. He is now a man who was murdered for speaking his mind. This cannot remain as yet another political murder of the sad reality of Swordland. In fact, it is time to change this. It is time to speak up as people. The most beautiful sea hasn't been crossed yet, said the great poet, reminding us to always have hope, and we must strive to have hope and to make them a reality. It is the best way to honor his memory. Bernard Sarkoz will be laid down in Dyer tomorrow. Any citizen who wants to pay respects is invited to attend. All right, and the only way out of recession? Bailing out businesses. Okay, I'm ready to hear this one, considering everything else is going on. Swordland's economy has been displaying a downward trend over the past 2 years of Alfonso's presidency. If we want to prevent our country from declaring bankruptcy, we need a way out of this recession, and we need it now. The economic downturn keeps hitting hard at the businesses which are struggling to stay afloat. It is clear that a helping hand from the government is required to control the situation. There is no other way apart from bailing out businesses to truly provide relief to the economy. This in turn should revitalize the economy by creating more employment opportunities and increasing production in Swordland. Yeah, I wonder about that. But, we'll go along with it because, again, that's what this playthrough is about this time. So, okay. Let's see what's going on here in the Capitol. We have a report to read, dinner with the family, and a security briefing on the threats against Swordland. So, see what this report says. The Chief of Police, Carl Gracer, reports that 2 Bluish women with affiliations to the Bluish Freedom Front have been caught in Holsword before they could execute a terror attack at a crowded rally. Both women are listed as wanted criminals and enemies of the state. The arrested women have admitted their intentions to attack the National Front Party's rally at Seoul Square when Kasaro Kibner gave his speech but rejected any connection to the BFF. Both claim that they were acting alone. Police reports that the situation is under control and further investigations are underway. Okay. I guess we could have dinner with the family before we go back to the Situation Room. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Sergei and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Dina rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. "Papa, you're home." Let's see, there's my little bright one. I lifted Dana up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. Let's see. Where's your mother? Mama's in the kitchen making dinner. I put her down and her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? It was only one bad man, Dana, and yes, he's gone now. Okay, Papa. Dana dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Dana, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. Let's see. Darling, you shouldn't have. What do we have a cook for? I felt like going grocery shopping, just like old times. And besides, she can't make your favorite like I can. You mean... Yes, Lorsha. Lorsha was a Lachavian specialty, usually reserved for special occasion. A rich seafood stew with a heady garlic and paprika kick. I don't remember if that was the actual one from the demo, but I think it might be different. And I guess it's based off of where you actually grew up from. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with cabbage, a potent unfiltered wine from Bergia. Let's see. It's my lucky day. What's the occasion? No occasion. I just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Dana wouldn't hear, especially after what happened at the ball. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Dana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama. Yes, sweetheart? I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Just like a teenager. Monica started taking out the china while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. It's kind of odd seeing that in here. I mean, I know it's talking about the cutlery, I guess you could say, and of course the yeah. But still, it's just kind of weird seeing that in there. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hit of cigarette smoke. Open the door. The door was locked. Oh, great. I'll knock on the door. There was no response. Knock on the door again. There was still no response. Bang on the door. The stereo in Frank's room clicked off. All right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Dude, if you turned around... if I answered my parents that way, I would probably get beat. So, let's see. Let's see. Hand over those cigarettes and join your family for dinner. You smoke, don't you? I'm old enough to do what I want. Oh, boy. Oh, you want to get smart now. Okay. Let's see. I guess I could not be douchey and just say, I'm just asking you to wait until you're out of the house. Frank heaved a sigh, handed me the packet, and headed downstairs. I followed him to the living room. The table was prepared, and Monica was ladling food into the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be as tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was as delicious as ever, but I had the feeling that wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? That definitely wouldn't be a good thing to say. Why not? We could live like kings. Monica measured me with her eyes for a moment. Anyway, the grocer really is a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hands on the table, rattling the china. Monica, Dana, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be. We're just going to sit here like nothing happened. Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have died. Dana's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Oof. And yet we are still alive. I think that's a sufficient one. I'm not going to be too much of a jerk to my family. I thought about it. Now, granted, if the secretary starts making advances, we'll see how it goes. But I'm not going to be too much of a jerk to my family. Yeah, that'll work. For now, but how long until this happens again? Frank got up from his seat. Frank, let's talk about it. Sit down. Frank took his seat again, scowling. I know it was a close call, but everything's under control. Don't worry, we're going to be fine. Do you think I would let us go down so easily? Frank smirked. No. But it's not up to you, is it? My security assured me that they took all the necessary steps. It was one rogue shooter. We're not even a target. Just trust me. All these things are bad. These are all bad answers. I guess I'll just go with just trust me. He sighed. Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Dana up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he's still young. I know, but there's not much longer we can shield him from the ugliness of the world. I feel like it should either be the first one or the second one. I'll go with the second one. I won't be too much of a jerk. He's scared, Anton, and frankly, he isn't the only one. I promise if there's truly any threat to this family, you will be the first to know. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of cabbage. Had I been lying to Frank and Dana? Was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. All right. Things are a bit heavy here now, so let's go ahead and put that to the side. And it's time for the security briefing on the threats against Swordland. Oh, this should be great. I arrived in front of the doors leading to the situation room, and I have three... God dog, I have 3 newspapers to read. Okay. Today's security briefings was arranged in 2 parts, starting with internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. The Minister of Interior, Lilius Graf, and the Minister of Justice and Law, Nia Morgna, would join us for the first part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense, Isaf Lankia, would join with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger. I opened the door. Lucien, Nia, and Lilius rose from their seats. Sir, let's begin. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucien. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I'm assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules, so without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we feared, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status on the Bernard Sarkoz investigation? I received the news this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Sarkoz has concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. After further research and testimonies, we have confirmed the intention and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on a Young Swords local leader in Jin. We believe the Young Swords had called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Sarkoz. Since he often spoke against the Young Swords and nationalist sentiments in the assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. The Red Youth are clearly to blame since they triggered it. Again, we're trying to go with the authoritarian right, so we're going to be against the Red Youth. They struck first, yes. It was obvious that there would be a retaliation. Lily has handed over the report and pointed at a highlighted section in the document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Cantana. Wonderful! Just what we needed. This is proof that they are meddling in our affairs. Exactly. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Cantana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to a preparation for a communist uprising in Swordland. Oh no, we cannot have that. It isn't unusual for the superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little far-fetched. The left lacked popular support in Swordland. Nia eagerly lifted her hand. I motioned for her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign interference yet. United Cantana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Swordland. I trust Miss Graf's judgment. United Cantana is clearly trying to expand its influence. Mr. Rain, we have done our due diligence, and the funding, operatives, and strategy all point to a coup plot. Wonderful. She took a sip from her glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Carl Gracier, has linked the funding channel to the United Cantana consulate in Benfi. As we all know, the enemies of Swordland are many, but we also have threats inside the country. We need to remain vigilant. As a people and a nation, if we give up essential freedoms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. I've heard that before. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused to this country under President Sol. Let's not forget that President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on, our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 20,000 strong British Freedom Front led by the imprisoned Dolan Arge. They are a banned political organization, now a militant force that is trying to incite racial violence. Oh boy, this is going to be good. Are they supported by our bluish citizens? To some extent. Luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of Bloods, but they could potentially attract thousands if anti-Bludish sentiment spreads in Swordland again. Lilius pointed to page 3 in the report. Our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to the Rumberg border. They were filled with military-grade Ka-74s. We expected that more have been smuggled in since a group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not far away. Rumberg has been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I'm not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the Bludish people against us. This is worrying. Very worrying. It was expected that Rumberg would undermine us, but this is too far. I agree. The prospect of arming our population against us is a step too far. This is grave news, but we must be careful not to stoke the fires of anti-Bludish sentiment. What is the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Anglin regions. 2 prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Which 2 crime families? One is known as the Coronelli, and the other as the Skinner Cartel. They used to be allies until a recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Narble and Estord. Let me see. They're playing with fire. I want them gone for good. While I agree it would make Swordland a better place, it will not be easy. These gangs exist because corruption is so common in our country. They buy our police officers and slip by checkpoints. Leah's Graff sighed deeply. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further arming of separatists while maintaining order in Bergier, Nargis, or Aglin. If the law enforcement budget isn't increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as is. In light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We will rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Lilius. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is very likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A higher budget could help us in that. Valid points. Corruption is the root of all evil, after all. I do think corruption is a big problem, so we're going to have to deal with that. You know, besides my own corruption. Let's not talk about that. We can look into corruption once the weapons have been found and the gangs have been beaten. Just like previous administrations, kicking the can down the road. This is what's destroying our institutions. Lilius and Nia were openly scowling at each other. Lilius turned back to her notes. I don't remember there being that much beef between them before, so... Well, this concludes the topics for the internal portion. Thank you for the updates. Ms. Graff, Ms. Morgner, thank you for the overview. Have a good day. Until next time. The 2 ministers left the room. We took a short break before continuing to the second part. Upon invitation, Isaflankia, along with 3 high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Defense, walked into the room. One of the men was none other than General Kruger, the chief of the armed forces. Isaf made his way towards the table while the others stood by the door. Mr. President? Isaf, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. I remember there was a way you were supposed to deal with him that would kind of make him happy. So I think it was that he liked to be saluted and such. Can't remember. Let's see. Yeah, and skimming through this, I don't see anything about it here. But I do remember that being a thing in the demo. General Kruger stepped forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall stature, uniform, and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, made him look threatening. Yeah, he does look a little creepy. He was in his 70s, yet he had a bulky body that was the result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Swordland, he was also the longest serving. I'm gonna salute him. He smiled at the gesture and bowed his head in respect. Isov tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of another high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to this significant gathering. Let's begin. Isov and Vulcan took their seats at the table, while the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation at the western and northern borders towards Runeberg is very tense. We are observing deployments of divisions closer to our border. Runeberg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decades, and also interfered in Agnolia, but now they have turned their sights on us. I trust the capabilities of our armed forces to handle any threats. What is your current strategy? Yeah, let me see what that is. Patrolling close to the borders with our border force and keeping Army Reserve divisions near. It seems like they want to increase the pressure both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may. Please, General. The picture is becoming clearer. The latest information from the interior about the weapons caches, and now there is an active military buildup close to our borders. The entire situation was analyzed by our General Staff, and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Runeberg. Let's see. I have complete trust in the General Staff. We will not let you down, Mr. President. The General Staff is composed of the smartest military individuals. I require an increase in the military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then we can stand strong against our enemy. The enlarged armed forces will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need an increase in the military budget to have more capable force to face a regional power to defend Swordland. Two of our most talented officers are voicing a common opinion. That is an understatement. Times are changing and war is coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. Do not forget that during the election you promised to focus on the military. I expect that word to be kept for the defense of our nation. I'm going to give you that budget, but I don't like the way you're talking to me, sir. I'm a man of my word, Isov. Of course you are, and that is why I follow you, Mr. President. The only way we can guarantee the national survival is through a more capable military force against Runeberg. Our country hasn't fallen to an invading force for 200 years. You cannot let it happen, Mr. President. We could also find regional allies like Volsland or Lesbia to deter Runeberg. There are several options on the table. Runeberg wouldn't attack any nation allied with any superpower. One shudders at the sacrifices they would require us to make. That's probably fair. Yes, but what is the difference between losing your independence to one or the other? Everyone fell silent when a soldier entered the room and let Isov Lankia know that a call had come through from the ministry. Excuse me, Mr. President. Isov left the room to answer. A few minutes later, he entered the room again. His expression had changed. Mr. President, there has been Runebergian military actively close to the Nurgle border. I just spoke with the local commander. Vulcan, we should go to the ministry and get further updates from our branches. Understood. Raising military readiness is the first call of action. If there is truly an extraordinary attempt, we will relay it to you immediately and wait further orders, Mr. President. Go and show them the might of the Swordish armed forces. We will. You can be sure of that. Hail Swordland. Hail. They saluted and left the room. Runeberg was already testing us, and the reports from the interior indicated interference inside our borders. Communists, nationalists, brutish rebels, Runeberg expansionism. What was next? 2020? Swordland had always been a key piece in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Arcasia and United Cantana, but in recent years there was no such aggression from Runeberg, not at these levels at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Runeberg had decided to close their consulate in Lechaven. Oh goody, it gets better. 9. It went to 9. Why did it go to 9? Oh god. Arcasia develops first ICBM. Great. I could use that. And then we also have to react to the unrest that's going on. What else do we have over here? Read the report from Visord. United Cantana Embassy help protesters. Oh, great. Around midnight, Red Youth protesters clashed with young swords at the Visord city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter-protesters were cornered in front of the United Cantana Embassy after they were pushed back by the police. The embassy opened its doors and Red Youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside the building for the return of Red Youth members. That is a ballsy move. That is a seriously ballsy move. The stones you have to have as an embassy to pull such a move in my country. Okay. All right. We have 9 unread newspapers then. After that, I am going to wrap it up for this video. So let's see what we got here. Protests across Swordland. Protests erupted around Swordland after the death of Bernard Sarkoz, many of which started peaceful but soon turned violent. Protesters with Red Youth flags were seen in most central cities around Swordland carrying out violent riots and organizing protests that disrupted much vital services from being delivered to the Swordish people. Protesters held sit-ins, which were broken up by riot police with tear gas and water cannons in the regions of Bergia, England, and Gruny. Thousands of people poured into Republic Avenue in Lechaven and Sol Square in Holsword in response to the Young Swords attack. Similar protests around Swordland soon turned into violent riots. Great. Swordland Today, rumors of an infrastructure project. Anonymous sources have reported to Swordland Today that several government officials have invited construction companies to meetings regarding a new major infrastructure project. If true, this is great news as infrastructure in Swordland is lacking heavily needed investment. We hope that very qualified and experienced companies like Underhall Constructions win the bid. Surely there is no connection with anyone here, and there's no reason why they would say that, surely. Protests are taking place throughout the Gruny region in response to the assassination of Bernard Sarkoz. The protesters raised their concerns about the young swords, the increased cost of living, and the inequality prevalent in the country. Large rallies have been organized in the city centers of Benfi and Boren. A large congregation of Red Youth members have organized sit-ins and protests aimed at hampering public transport in the city of Volgan, which brought the city to a standstill for a few hours before riot police came to disperse large groups of protesters at transportation nodes. Okay. Not too bad that time, Swordland Today. In the Lechaven Times, gang violence claims young girl's life. A 15-year-old young girl was shot to death in Narble as she walked her dog a few blocks away from her apartment. The police said the shooting, which occurred in an area affiliated with the gang Coronelli, was a reckless act of violence, and the victim was not the target. The 15-year-old was shot about 4:45 p.m., right before she was returning home. A man who witnessed the event told police the shooters yelled gang slogans at him on the streets before he heard someone fire at least 10 shots, sources said. He later saw the victim had been hit and called the authorities. Our sources report that the local police force of the region is understaffed and overworked, which adds to the current bleak situation. All right, political chaos. Political violence has surrounded Swordland since yesterday. While officials from the police claim to have the situation under control, protests are turning into riots and violent attacks are occurring around the country. NFP and LUS call for protests. Kesar Kibner of the National Front Party called a rally to condemn communist influence from United Cantana and called the violent protesters as traitors to Swordland. These Melanyevists are roaming in our streets, conducting violent attacks in disguise as peaceful protesters. We can't let them exploit a man's murder, said Kibner in a press conference. On the other hand, Labor Union of Swordland has gathered to condemn Nationals' violence in Swordland. The protests gathered crowds of several thousands and agitators from both sides in Holsword, and acts of vandalism occurred. Katarina Horton accused Kibner for provoking the public. Young Swords vandalized shops. A group of people with Young Swords flags have vandalized a dozen of shops in the trade district of Anrika, specifically targeting the Blutish and Agno-Swordish minorities. The shop owners who defended themselves were wounded in the attack. Local police broke the groups apart. NFP office burned. A group of violent militants have assaulted the National Front Party headquarters in Morna and committed arson. Firefighters have been called to the scene where fires raged for hours on end. Several nearby houses burned to the ground before it was brought under control. Jesus, such a great country right now. Oh my God, the Radical and their long-winded articles. I love you, but at the same time, no. I mean, this version of me doesn't love you, but good Lord. Okay, I was there when General Lutheran and Rickard clashed in the plains outside Holsword, when the armies of Swordish people killed each other. I was there when Colonel Soule won the war after bombarding cities with Swordish civilians inside them. We saw this great nation fall into bloodshed and chaos. We thought we learned our lesson and formed a new republic, but one man's idea became the idea of the state, and we allowed it to be forced upon us. We were a generation who lived with Tarkon Soul for most of their lives. However, this generation is different. Our kids have not experienced civil war or martial law. This generation is born in a changing time. We cannot allow the same conditions to return. We cannot forget when General Lutheran declared martial law in 1927, when his tanks rolled and murders took place. Those tanks cannot roll again. Bombs cannot fall again. Freedoms cannot be suspended again. 1927. Never again. The real truth behind economic crisis. We have all seen this scenario play before. Large corporate businesses time and time again receive money from the government under the disguise of helping the economy. But what about the people? Many in the neglected regions still do not have electricity or fresh water in their homes, and they are the lucky ones. There's a growing housing crisis and people are on the streets, begging for food. In the year of 1954, it is high time that the money is invested in us, the people of Swordland, instead of armchair millionaires and their luxurious villas. Alright, and we have two more. Oh boy, here we go with Underhall Construction. Like I said, you can see the influence coming through. Underhall Construction was once again picked as the #1 construction company of the year by the reputable Statistics Swordland. This was the 11th time the company was selected for the top spot in a row since Chris Scarr was appointed as the CEO. Veteran industry leader Scarr congratulated the employees first and foremost in a private company meeting held in a luxurious resort in Rollery. You don't see the irony there. He also mentioned the recent addition of Heart of Swordland organization CEO Marcel Coranti to the board of advisors helped immensely in this great achievement. As the economists, we think now is a great time to invest in Underhall Construction, as the current year's projection already shows a 13% increase in growth compared to last year. Yeah, okay. And last but not least, Rumburg has closed down its consulate in Swordland, one of the few East Markopan nations to have diplomatic ties with the Northern Kingdom. This comes right after the deployment of Rumburgian troops near the northern borders of Swordland. Rumburgian officials cite political unrest and uncertainty as the main reason for the closure, while raising concerns over security in the country. In Lechaven, a diplomatic source said that Rumburgian flags have been lowered overnight and that the embassy staff were expected to leave Swordland on Friday or Saturday. Many Lechaveners were shocked as the 120-year-old Rumburg consulate closed. Dozens of citizens with Rumburgian relatives went out to protest against this action in the afternoon. It was not clear if the embassy closure was temporary or permanent, signaling a break in diplomatic ties which date from 1923. Our editors see this situation as further deterioration of relations between Swordland and Rumberg, this can be easily regarded as a one-sided provocation from the north. Okay, that was a lot of reading, and we have so much more reading to go. Because on the next episode, we're going to react to the unrest. We're going to read the report from Holstard about Arcasia developing its first ICBM. And we're going to end the day at the Maroon Palace, which will pretty much lead us to near the end of the demo. The demo ended before with the funeral of Bernard Sarkoz. And I'm curious on how this is going to go out, because this is obviously way more fleshed out. There's way more content here, way more little things that's been added, and I am really liking this so far. I've actually been recording all these videos in one day, so it'll be 3 or 4 videos that I've just recorded back to back, and it's been about 3 or 4 hours. So yeah. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough so far, and then I will be dropping the next one pretty soon. So if you like the video, like the video. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. I have plenty of things in my library, and I have much more to come. So see you in the next one. See ya.